Big shout out to all my subscribers. Some of you have been subscribed to me since the beginning, back in 2010, when I first started uploading videos to YouTube back on the old channel. But most of you will be a lot more recent than that. Some of you might have been subscribed to me for a couple years, and some of you have only been subscribed to me for maybe a couple months, couple weeks, or even a couple days. And it's you new subscribers who I'm going to be addressing in this particular video. Reason being that if you're new to my channel, you might not really understand what my channel's about. You might not really understand how I am as a person. You might not really know much about me and my story and my relationship to boxing. And you might not understand my approach to the sport of boxing and how I view other fans. All right, so I'm going to give you a little insight into who I am and what I'm really about. Now, what has inspired this video was a comment that was left here on my latest video about Chris Eubank Jr. possibly being on the Wyatt Parker undercard. And this individual basically, he seemed to think that my use of the term casual was arrogant, and that I was using the term casual in the arrogant sense, as if to say I'm better than casual fans. Okay, and he said things like, "You're no better than any other fan. You just have more time on your hands. You ain't got a boxing record to put out that arrogance." So I obviously replied and so on and so forth, and informed the gentleman that I actually boxed as an amateur from the age of 12 through to my mid to late 20s. I've been following the sport from the 80s up until now, so I am definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, a hardcore boxing fan. But I don't use the term, this is where he's got the situation twisted. I don't use the term casual as a pejorative term. I don't use it as an insult normally. I'm one of the, perhaps one of the few hardcore boxing fans who actually appreciates the casuals. I've long said on my channel many times that boxing needs casual fans. Boxing without casual fans has no money in it. So let me define what a casual is, but in order to define what a casual is, it's easier to define what a hardcore fan is. So let me give you myself as an example. Why am I a hardcore fan? Well, when I first started following boxing in the late 80s, I developed a complete obsession with the sport. I was getting my hands on every boxing documentary that I could. Mike Tyson documentaries, Muhammad Ali documentaries, The Fabulous Four, Leonard Duran, Hearns Hagler. I started taping every single piece of boxing from the television that I could find, from the BBC, on ITV, not even just boxing shows, but even the magazine programs. There was like Grandstand. Sometimes they would have highlights of boxing from around the world on the BBC. I'd tape that. ITV had a similar program, and they had a segment in that similar program called The Big Hitters, where they showed the best knockouts from around the world every week. I would tape that. Later on, Channel 5 had something called KOTV. It was either Channel 4 or Channel 5. I think it was Channel 5. I taped that, and I taped all the fights. While I was in high school, I was staying up. In fact, I think even before I was in high school, but definitely while I was in high school, I was staying up, way past midnight to the early hours, watching fights from the United States. All right, I was taping everything. I was getting into fights with family members because I was taking VHS tapes and I was taping over stuff that they'd recorded because I didn't have enough blank tapes left. I used to buy all the boxing publications obsessively. I used to buy KO Magazine, Ring Magazine, Boxing Illustrated, Boxing News, Boxing Monthly, even the Marshall Cavendish specials that used to come with a VHS tape on the front. I used to buy all those. I used to feverishly check for boxing news every single day, before and after school. As soon as I got up in the morning, on Sunday mornings after the fights have been on Saturday because a lot of the fights were not televised. You couldn't get every fight in the UK that happened in America or happened in a different part of the world. So I'd straight away in the morning be checking CFAX and Teletext for boxing news. This is before the days of the internet. On top of that, I was boxing myself as an amateur. I was absolutely obsessed. I was talking about boxing all the time among my friends. Most of my friends were not boxing nuts like me. They were not boxing fanatics and boxing lunatics like I was. I was driving them crazy talking about boxing 24/7. I was driving my family members crazy talking about boxing 24/7, and I was boxing myself. So this was an obsession which was not normal for most people who watch boxing. Okay, I can name you journeymen from back in the 80s and 90s who you've never heard of, just off the top of my head. I can name you guys like Gary Lane, Gary Winman, Dave Dixon. I can name you people like Andy Till or Andy Flute. I can name you random people just off the top of my head, journeymen or British level fighters from way back when, without even thinking about it. Okay, this is what you call a hardcore boxing fan. This is what you call somebody who has an unnatural obsession with the sport and has had it for a number of years, and in my case, a number of decades. Yeah? Most boxing fans are not like this. Most boxing fans are casuals. They're not people who are obsessed like that, who are buying all the boxing, all the boxing encyclopedias and all that. They're not like that. Yeah? I'm not saying that being a hardcore fan is better than being a casual fan. Most of my friends are casual boxing fans. They tune in to watch the big fights. They'll buy a big pay-per-view like a Joshua or, Mayweather when he was still fighting. But other than that, they don't really care about boxing too tough. Yeah? So I'm not using it as an insulting term when I say casual. I'm just describing the majority of people who watch boxing. They're not boxing nuts. Yeah? And again, I've always said on my channel, we need the casuals. The casuals are the ones who make the fighters rich. People like me who have an unhealthy obsession with the sport, we constitute a small minority of boxing fans. Yeah? That's why I always take issue with a lot of the other hardcore fans. Yeah, because I do talk to other hardcore fans. A lot of other hardcore boxing fans have got an elitist attitude where they act as though they hate casuals. They act as though they don't even want casuals watching boxing. It is such a bizarre and strange and backward way of thinking. It's such a backward attitude to have where you don't want casuals to watch the fight. You're angry when casuals are turning up in their droves to watch Joshua or whoever. Why are you angry? They're the ones making the sport bigger. They're the ones getting the fighters paid. So, I'm not one of those kind of hardcore fans who wants to denigrate casuals all the time. No, I like casuals. We need casuals. And someone who's a casual today can turn into a hardcore fan later down the line. I've seen it myself. There's a guy who, we got a love-hate relationship. No homo. Who's a French man, all right? French individual. He knows who he is. And he didn't start following boxing until David Haye fought Jean-Marc Mormec. I think he might have said he was at that fight, or he definitely watched the fight on TV, but he said that fight turned him into a boxing fan. Now, to me, that's relatively recent, right? Even though that's, 10 years ago, whatever it was, to me, that's a relatively recent fight. But since then, he has turned into one of the most hardcore boxing fans you'll ever come across. He's got his own channel on YouTube. He is hardcore as hell. He has picked up the same obsession that I had when I initially started following the sport of boxing back in the 80s. You see, so casuals can turn into hardcores. But I'm not calling myself a hardcore with an elitist mentality. I'm just using it in the descriptive sense. How would you describe someone who has that much of an obsession with boxing and has accumulated so much boxing knowledge over several decades? You wouldn't describe that as someone who's hardcore? It's all relative at the end of the day. There are some people who are even more hardcore than me. There are some people with even more boxing knowledge than me. But when you compare me to the majority of boxing fans, I'm hardcore. Okay, that's all it is. It's just a descriptive term. Same way when I say casual, I'm using that term in the descriptive sense, not as a pejorative, not as an insult or anything like that, just as a descriptive term. So that's what people have to understand about me, just in case anybody like this gentleman gets the wrong end of the stick. And maybe he hasn't been following the sport for a particularly long time. I don't know. Maybe that's why he took offense to it. I'm not sure. Maybe he can reply and explain. But yeah, that's me basically. That's how I got involved in the sport of boxing. I was boxing for, on and off many years up until my, mid late 20s, and I still train now. I haven't stopped training. Wherever I've gone in my life, I've continued to train. It's a lifestyle. It's not something I'll ever stop. Some people who know about me on this channel, some people who have known me in real life have said to me, Raw, like, are you still training? Are you not a bit old to be sparring and, doing all this kind of stuff? And I'm like, listen, it's not, I don't do it because I'm going to turn professional or I'm going to have any more amateur fights or anything like that. I just do it because it's a lifestyle. I don't know what I would do without it. It's just what I do. I've been doing this since I was 12 years old. I train. I do my running. I do my push-ups. I go to the gym. I chat to the boys. Wherever I go in the world, because I've traveled the world, I will find a boxing gym and I'll make it work. Right? When I've gone to other countries to live and there wasn't any equipment, man, I found equipment and I put up my own heavy bag and stuff like that and made it work. It is a lifestyle. I am a fighter. That's who I am in my heart. Do you understand? So I always want to stay. A lot of it comes down to I want to stay ready just to be able to defend myself. As a man, I'm big on being able to defend myself physically. I'm not trying to put myself out here as a tough guy or anything like that. I'm a peaceful person, especially at my age. But I still like to be in a position where I can defend myself, I can defend my family, I can defend my friends if need be. All right, God forbid. But I like it, and I just like the feeling of punching, just doing all boxing related stuff. I've been doing it since I was 12. I don't know any other way to be. All right. So that's how I am as a person. That's my relationship with boxing. When I set out to upload videos here on YouTube back in 2010, I never did this to make money. I never did this even to get views. I started making videos back in 2010 because I wanted to actually get into some discussions with fellow hardcore boxing fans. Because as I said, most of my friends, they really don't know nothing about boxing. They're just casual fans. So when I started going on YouTube and seeing that there was discussions beneath boxing videos, fight videos and stuff like that, I thought, wow, okay, I can start talking to these people. There are other people here who know about boxing. There are other people here who knew about certain fights that happened way back in the days on some undercard somewhere, some obscure fight. There are other people who know about these things. So I started leaving comments and getting into discussions with other boxing fans on YouTube back in probably even before 2010. But it got to the point where it was like I was going back and forth with people in the comments and I was like, you know what, this is long. Let me just upload some videos myself because it's easier for me to talk. It's quicker for me to talk rather than typing. So that's the only reason I started uploading boxing videos. Just to get, just to put my point across and have a discourse with other boxing fans. That's all it was. And it snowballed gradually, slowly but surely it snowballed from 2010 through my first channel, which gained quite a lot of subscribers and got quite a lot of views. And then I moved over to this channel, I think in, 2012, 2013 when I moved over to this channel. And then, yeah, it's just gone to a next level. And obviously, eventually, with that comes revenue and stuff like that. But for the first 3-4 years that I was doing YouTube videos, I wasn't making no money. In fact, when I first started making boxing videos on YouTube. I didn't even know you could make money from YouTube. I remember when I first got a check from Google, or when I first got an email notification or whatever it was, and I got a check from Google, I was like, what? You can make money? I mean, like, it was a surprise to me. I didn't even realize you could make money doing this. So my channel started out of a love for boxing, you know, and when I did start my channel, there was very few people making videos about boxing. Now it's completely saturated, right? It's a saturated market, which is why it's so difficult now to actually build a boxing YouTube channel. It's very difficult. You got to work a lot harder now to have a successful boxing YouTube channel than you did when I started. Because when I started, there was so few people doing it. You know, so few people. It was such a tight-knit community, the YouTube boxing community, that everybody knew everybody else. Back in 2010, literally everybody knew everybody else and everybody watched each other's videos. Whereas now it's like, I don't even know most of these people that have channels. Because the scene has just grown so much. So yeah, that's just a little bit of background for the new subscribers about me, my relationship with boxing, and how I got started on YouTube. And for anybody who wants to start a YouTube channel, I definitely don't want to discourage anybody by what I've just said. You know, that is a lot harder today to get a following than it was back then. In some ways anyway, in some ways it is. But if I was to give people any advice on starting a YouTube channel to do with boxing, my advice would be concentrate on your own channel. Don't beef with other channels. Even if people call you out and do this, that, and the other, don't get involved in it. Just do what you're doing and ignore any hate, ignore any people trying to call you out or bring you down, because they're just a distraction. Your channel will just turn into a beef channel. And in the boxing world, all that beef stuff, it don't help. And as I say, it's just a distraction. Concentrate on the boxing. You are not, this is my attitude towards it. I am not the star of the show here. I'm not the main event. The main event is the fighters. I'm giving my commentary on it. I'm giving my opinion on it. All right, my reviews and analysis, etc. But ultimately, the star of the show is the fighters and the sport itself, not me. Yeah. And I find that approach works for me. Other people who have come into the YouTube boxing community, who have tried to set themselves up as some kind of star, I mean, in some cases it works, but in most cases I think it don't work because people don't really take kindly to it. You know, and understandably so. You're just some guy sitting behind a computer talking about boxing. You're not an actual boxer or a professional boxer yourself. Professional boxers, some of them have YouTube channels like Ohara Davis, shout out to him, but most of them don't. All right. So understand that the fighters in the sport, that's the star of the show, not you. Concentrate on your channel. Don't worry about naysayers. Don't worry about people dissing you. If I had £1 for every YouTube channel who's called me out over the years and dissed me, boy, you know, I would have made a nice little tidy Christmas bonus every year, right? Most of the people who have dissed me, they're fallen by the wayside. You know, YouTube channels come and go. I'm still here since 2010. You know, so just put one foot in front of the other. Don't worry about what nobody's saying. Just do your thing. And obviously try and learn from other channels in terms of their format. I've certainly learned from other channels. I certainly learned from Dwyer, for example. I learned how to speak more correctly because at the end of the day, yeah, I'm from South London, but not everybody understands South London vernacular. And the South London vernacular is not palatable to everybody as well. So I wanted to give myself more of a, how can I describe it? More of a international and national friendly way of speaking, and just to remove a lot of the slang and all the other stuff that I had in my videos in the early days. Because in the early days I was just a typical South London guy, and I didn't care about blowing up my channel. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I was using loads of slang and saying "you get me" all the time, and you know what I mean, and all this kind of stuff, and it just came across as kind of unprofessional. So watching Dwyer over the years, I refined my speech. I slowed it down a bit because I used to talk mad fast. I slowed it down, refined my speech, and just tried to improve my oration skills. So that's another thing I worked on, is not umming and ahhing all the time. Because when I first started doing YouTube, I was umming and ahhing constantly every second. I'm sure I still do it from time to time now, but far less than I did. So I improved my speaking skills, I improved my communication skills, I improved my vocabulary, and I continue to improve. You know, it's a never-ending journey. It's not like I've reached the pinnacle now. I'm going to continue to improve what I'm doing, and hopefully the viewers appreciate it and it makes my work better quality. So that's what I'll say to anyone who's looking to start a boxing YouTube channel now. And also, I mean, I would say you have to have a clear identity, because I think I do have a clear identity now, but I don't know whether you should try and go for a clear identity, because that's forcing it, because you might be forcing yourself to do something which you're not really comfortable with. You know, I think you should just do what you feel like doing in terms of the content you produce, and let the cards fall where they may. Because there have been a lot of people who have said to me, "Oh, Hatman, we want to see you rival IFL. You know, we want to see you do more interviews and become an interview channel." IFL is a fantastic channel, and I'm not looking to rival IFL or Seconds Out or even newcomers like Boxing Social. They do something different to what I do, and I think there's a market. Well, there's definitely a market for them. There's an even much bigger market for them for what they do than what I do. But what I do is different. Okay, what I do is more boxing analysis rather than interviewing people. Interviewing people is fantastic. I love all the channels that I just described, that I just mentioned. And there's a need and an importance for, you know, interview channels. But my channel focuses more on the broader discussions in boxing, analyzing fights, analyzing fighters, the psychology of fighters, so on and so forth, and also discourse with the fans, because those other channels are focused on talking to the fighters, and I certainly, you know, I'm interested in what fighters have to say, but I'm also interested in having discourse with fans, with boxing fans. I don't mean fans of me. I don't have fans. I've got subscribers. I've also got some supporters. I don't call people fans. I'm just a normal man like everybody else out there. I don't believe in the concept of fans anyway. You know, I think when you are a fan of somebody, I mean, a boxing fan, yeah, but a fan of a particular fighter or a fan of any other human being, I don't like the concept of that. I don't consider myself to be a fan of any human being on this earth, because a fan is a fanatic. Why would I be a fanatic of a human being? To me, that denigrates me as a man. It puts them up on a pedestal when everybody puts on the trousers the same way. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're all the same. As Tyson Fury would say, just another bare bum in the shower. So I'm not into the whole concept of looking at another man and saying I'm a fan of his or he's my idol. I don't do none of that. And I don't want anybody to look at me in that way. Not that there are many people who would, but in case there are, please don't look at me like that. Yeah. I'm a human being with flaws, like you are, like he is, like everybody else is. So anyway, I'm rambling at this point, people. But for those of you who are new subscribers, hopefully you got something from this. And yeah, shout out to all my old subscribers as well, man. All the guys who have been here since 2010, who know about the journey. So yeah, it's Hatman, I'm out.